Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt show Daniel Waisberg, who's an analytics advocate at Google. Daniel, real pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, what is an analytics advocate at Google?
So basically, one of the big issues with analytics is that the technology is really, really good, but what is missing right now is a real understanding of what we can do with the technology. So the advocate is a person that should be out there in the world and helping people to understand and, both educating and inspiring professionals into data-driven decision-making.
So what is that? What is data-driven decision-making?
Well, so basically we want people to use analytics to decide, not just deciding random decisions, but knowing that one thing will be better than the other, either by testing. So, for example, one of the things that we like people to use is A/B testing, which is one of Google Analytics features, which helps people to decide which design is better, because how can you decide if something is more or less beautiful than the other? So the answer is just show them to your customers, and whichever they like is most beautiful.
So basically, this is a service that you're providing to companies who have a web presence so that they can sell better to their clients?
Yes, anyone using Google Analytics or just online marketing. I'll be there and I'll be talking to people and going to conferences and writing articles on publications and yeah.
So what's the real benefit to Google if people do this?
So Google Analytics is a free product right now. So there is also a premium version, but the free product is the most common. And what we saw is that people that use analytics and are savvy on the web, they end up moving their budgets to online advertising. And so that's obviously it's good for Google. So we provide this tool for free and we help people use it because we understand that people will ultimately, they will be driving their business to the web more than offline.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. I'm not trying to get free advice, but I'll use myself as an example so that I can maybe get the picture. And probably a lot of the listeners to the show have seen this also. But my day job is that I'm an investment advisor. I have a company called Profile Investments in Jerusalem, and I deal mostly with people who live in Israel who keep their assets in a U.S. brokerage firm. And we try to access that market, and we hired a web specialist to help us. And I find the whole thing is just so big because it's really endless what you can do. How do you help people to deal with that problem, sort of the infinite nature of the web, so that they can really, reach the right target audience?
Yeah. So first of all, I think what is really important is to start small, to understand, for example, who is your customer. So I'm sure that you know who is your customer, so you know more or less what kind of people they are. And I think that, for example, building a web presence, so you would have a website and use it, for example, to push content so that your customers, they will be able to read more content. And then once you start building content and building a web presence, you'll understand more and more your customers and what they need, what they want, and what they don't want. So you'll be able also to fine-tune your own offerings to them based on what they like and what they don't like. Does it answer your question?
Well, let me drill into a little bit further. One of the issues is that there are so many platforms out there. There's Twitter and Facebook and Google One and Pinterest. It goes on and on. And it's impossible for, let's say, a small to medium-sized company to really dominate in any one area, without having a full-time team. I assume you speak a lot to medium to small, small and medium businesses as well. How do they deal with it?
Well, so in terms of social, I think that the most important thing in social is, to focus on one, because mostly when you go to websites, you see, for example, on the footer that people have, Google Plus and Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest, what you said, and you go to those accounts and they're just empty, and it's really bad for your reputation and for the client is really bad because they see something empty. And what I like to see is when people, for example, they you can do a small research on the web, what kind of people. So you'll see, for example, that Pinterest is for people that, you'll see that it's a much higher percentage of women and people that are more interested in design and things. So probably for financial products, it wouldn't be the right decision. So, and Facebook is more for family-oriented activities, and Twitter, for your example, without, going too deep, but it will be more relevant, I think, because it's more business, or Twitter or LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And so I think starting with one of them and seeing what works and which kind of content and which kind of interaction would be the best, alternative.
One of the things that I like to believe about the internet is that there's so much information out there, but that people can always turn to Google to find the most relevant information, and that quality content is the target of all the searches. My first question is, A, is that really true? And B, how does Google do that to make the experience good for all of the end users? So, yeah, content I think is certainly the most, well, today we have a really, it's almost a buzzword, which is content marketing. So people are always, trying to push content on their customers to, to bring them back to their websites and engage users. And one of the things I think Google, the Google search is trying to organize that and bring people to the right place. But I think Google Analytics, it helps you as a publisher. So if you have, for example, a website and you publish things about your products and content that will help your customers, what Google Analytics can help is by telling you which kind of content people are enjoying, which kind of content is not being read. So, for example, if you have an article that is on trendy, let's call it like that, and it's appearing on search and it's appearing on social media channels, and you'll be able to understand what kind of content should you produce in the future. And I think that's one of the big features of Google Analytics is helping you understanding what people like in terms of content on the website. So I think, yeah. Sometimes it feels as though there are people who maybe are not writing such great content, but somehow they just know how to get high in the rankings. And in the end of the day, it's not, I don't know if it's not fair, but it's just not necessarily what the end user is looking for. How can you improve that? Yeah, so that's more an SEO question, and I think there are all kinds of in the end the Google search team is trying very hard to understand which websites should rank and which content is the best content to show to a specific user. And I think that we as content publishers should be thinking, not only, I've always thought that we shouldn't be thinking in terms of what the search engine will like. We should always think what our users will like. And I trust the Google search team that they will understand that and lead people to that content instead to less qualified content. Okay, Daniel, you've written a number of articles and books, and you have a website out there which is called Online Behavior. We're sort of wrapping up our time here, but in 1 minute, could you just tell us what have you discovered about human nature that you teach people in your writing? Yeah, so the books are more hands-on, so they are more about how to use Google Analytics in the most optimized way, so you can integrate all Google tools and build a suite of products. So you can integrate SEO and PPC and your YouTube efforts into Google Analytics. So that's more a hands-on approach on Google Analytics. But in terms, in more general terms, so in the past I've done a master's in Tel Aviv University, and one of the things that I've researched is Markov chains. And one of my conclusions from my research, and I still believe that it's true, is that on the web, one of the really important things when you're analyzing your websites is to look at specific pages, not the whole website. So, for example, if you sell something on the website, you shouldn't look just for sales as an objective. So you should look
for example, each page. So are you managing to persuade people to go to the next step? So if you sell, for example, books on your website, you would like people to land on the homepage, and then you should persuade them to go to a category, for example, novels, and then from the novels they should go to a book page, and then, because it's really important to look at consumer behavior, not as something that we could put into a bucket and everyone behaves more or less the same. So it's really looking into each individual piece on your website and seeing if it's working for you or not working for you. And that's how I think Google Analytics can help online businesses.
I see. That really helps you to customize the experience for the client so that the client actually gets what he's looking for and isn't just kind of lost in a pool of the internet.
Right.
All right. That sounds like a very, very useful service. We've been talking to Daniel Waisberg, who's an analytics advocate at Google. Daniel, in the last few seconds, can you just tell people how can they follow you and your work?
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm the founder of online-behavior.com, which is a content website. I publish articles for people to read about how to learn Google Analytics and other analytics-related subjects. And also, if you look for me on Amazon, you'll see my books, and that's about it.
Okay, and we'll put links to your websites and your Amazon on the show notes at goldsteinongelt.com. Daniel Waisberg, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Douglas. It was a pleasure.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.